This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Aaron Torres joining us from the Aaron Torres Sports Podcast and Aaron Torres Sports Media here on a Friday edition of Halftime with Arkansas and Mississippi State and the rest of the SEC doing battle on the hardwood tomorrow and, of course, the Super Bowl on Sunday. Aaron, a big sports weekend. I don't know if there's ever anything bigger than the Super Bowl is concerned, but now you got like 7 games left in the regular season for men's college basketball in the SEC, and we got bubbles to talk about, double byes to worry about, and one of the best, if not the best, player in the country rejoining the Razorbacks. We expect that Nick Smith Jr. will be on the court tomorrow against Mississippi State, at least if his Instagram live broadcast proves to be true.
Yeah, I heard all about this Instagram. I guess I'm following the wrong people because I didn't hear about it until after the fact. But, listen, they say if it's on the Internet, it must be real. And so, obviously I know there was a few players talking about it, all that good stuff. But I just bring it up to say that, it'll be interesting to follow. And I'm excited. I hope that we're able to get him onto the court. I hope the rumors are true, and I'm excited to see him.
They played well in these last few weeks, too, without Nick Smith Jr., and it feels like the team has gelled into various roles. You see the Mitchell twins really kind of providing a lot of physical nature to the team right now. And Jordan Walsh off the bench. Devo is the unquestioned leader of the team. Some people worry about messing up the chemistry. And I mean, really, when you look at this, it's like, the chemistry will figure itself out when you add a player of Nick Smith's talent.
Yeah, somebody else asked me about this yesterday. I actually do understand the argument. Basketball is a team game, 5 guys on the court, all that. But what I would also say is if you're going to do it, now is the time because, if this was March 11th or whatever it is, I don't know if today's February 10th, I think the 11th, whatever. But if this was March 11th, then I would have trepidation of can you get this guy in? Can you figure out the pieces, blah, 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 this and that. It's only early to mid-February, and I think what really stands out is, and I told somebody else this yesterday, I know you're on this 5-game SEC win streak. I know it probably should be about a 7-game win streak with the Baylor and Missouri games, but I just bring it up because, I sit there and say, if you have to sacrifice a loss now in mid-February to get Nick Smith right, for late February, where we know the schedule gets even tougher if that's possible, and then, of course, everything to come in March, I think it's worth it. You want to stay hot. You want to keep doing what you're doing, but you said the words, Phil. I mean, if not the best player in college basketball, he's in the very, very, very short conversation. You just can't leave him on the bench. If he's healthy and if he wants to play and all that, that's a different conversation, but he is healthy enough. He does want to play, and there is enough time to reacclimate him, and so I've heard that argument. I understand that argument. I've seen it in real life. We have real-life examples of guys trying to join a team late, and it just doesn't work out. But I think because it's only February 10th, because, you have plenty of time to reacclimate him, I think you just got to go ahead and do it.
Yeah, it's wild. Arkansas potentially could have 4 first-round picks. I don't know if they'd all be 4 first-round picks this year, but in Brazil and Walsh, Walsh maybe next year. Anthony Black, man, he has just went. I haven't seen a better player in the SEC, all-round player. You might have a guy that can shoot it better. You might have a guy that can rebound better, but the way he sees the floor, the way he controls the game in that Kentucky game just stands out. He's been getting better each week. What are your thoughts on it? I mean, he's gone. He's going to be a top 10 pick this year.
Well, I think 2 things stand out, Matt. One, I mean, the defensive energy he brought early in the second half changed that game, and that was what allowed Arkansas to build that lead that they didn't give up. So that's one. And then 2, I was thinking about this after the game, is, we did our freshman All-American teams at AT, or mid-season freshman All-American teams at AT Online the other day, and in looking at his stats, and, me and a couple other guys voted on it, but I don't know why we don't appreciate. I mean, this guy's averaging what? I don't have the stats in front of me. What is it? 13.5, 5, and 4.5, or something like that.
He's a facilitator. He's not a score first guy. He's going to score more when he in his 7th year in the.
No, Matt, that's a compliment.
Yeah,
13.5, 5, and 4.5 as a freshman in the SEC is incredible. That's what I'm saying. Is like I don't know why he's not getting more credit for everything that he's already done. And again, he's shooting the ball at a great clip. The defensive energy is changing games. I'm with you. Now, Brandon Miller is the best freshman not only in the SEC in college basketball, but why Anthony Black has not gotten more credit for his play. I'm agreeing with you, man. I think he's gone completely under the radar nationally. It felt like we talked about him in that Creighton game, and then we didn't talk about him again until the Kentucky game 2 nights ago.
Yeah, he's just getting better. What are your thoughts on Oklahoma and Texas? How do they help the SEC? And is there any more teams coming to the SEC, you think, in the next 4 or 5 years?
What I think is interesting about that move, and I always thought it was going to happen, with the college football playoff expanding to 2024, it never made sense for me to keep Texas and Oklahoma in the Big 12. The last thing you want is for Texas or Oklahoma to make the playoff and go on a run as a member of the Big 12 and then immediately leave. So I always thought it was going to get done. Obviously the football perspective is what's interesting, and I know it's a big conversation today, what the scheduling model looks like. Here was a thought that I had, though. From the basketball perspective, do we know who either head coach is going to be when they enter the league? Because Texas is obviously no one knows right now. I actually give Rodney Terry credit. I think he's doing a great job of trying to keep that job full-time, and I think he's earned that right based on what we've seen so far. But Oklahoma's going sideways in a hurry. There's rumors that Porter Mosier is trying to figure out a way to get out of there and get out of his contract there. So from the basketball perspective, I think it's hard to tell. Obviously, from the football perspective, it is fascinating. 1, from the scheduling model. 2, where is Texas? 3, Oklahoma could either be a lot better than they were last year, or they could be a train wreck coming in. So, from the basketball perspective, there's not much, and I know this is kind of basketball season, but it is such a fascinating thing to peel back the layers of when you talk about it from the football perspective.
Yeah, on the football perspective, nobody with the Longhorns or the Sooners wants to admit that there's going to be this adjustment period. Matt and I were getting into this in the previous segment. Like, it's shocking to think about that Missouri actually won the East Division. I think it was the first 2 years that they joined the SEC. That's a head scratcher. That's an outlier. That will not happen with Texas and with Oklahoma. Although, by the time Texas comes in, Arch Manning will be ready to go. Who knows how good he'll be, right off the jump. But, there is that adjustment period with football. And, and part of that is the nature of the sport. You can remake teams in basketball a lot easier. The 2 baseball programs come in just ready to compete, I think, at the SEC level. But with football, I don't think anybody with OU or Texas or the fans really want to admit it. But they know. It's going to be it's going to be a couple years, 3 years before they're able to build that line of scrimmage up. Or maybe I'm not looking at it the right way, Aaron, because of the transfer portal and how quickly teams can change.
That was one of my takeaways. I think yesterday the 2 biggest losers were Brent Venables and Steve Sarkisian. And again, they'll never admit it. And, Brent Venables has done all these interviews. He's got a clock with the exact, it was set to whatever, July 1, 2025 or whatever it was, whatever the date was. So I don't know if he had to get a new clock or get it fixed or what. But, listen, it is going to be an adjustment. And we all know, this is stuff that everybody knows, is that it's not the one-off game, right? Texas can look great against Alabama like they did last year in Austin. But then can you go on the road the next week to Oxford or Fayetteville or College Station or whatever and keep that same momentum and intensity? So I'm with you, Phil, is that, and I'll say this too, is that, from the Texas perspective, okay, Sark is going into year 3. You mentioned the portal, 2 top 5 recruiting classes. I got to see something on the field from Brent Venables this year because, the offense last year, okay, whatever, Dylan Gabriel gets hurt, but the defense is supposed to be his area of expertise. And, I don't know how much you guys hear the noise being down in that area, but I guess on the national scale, there's a lot of the, Lincoln Riley, it's all Lincoln Riley. It's like the defense wasn't that bad the defense statistically, actually the best defense that Lincoln Riley has ever had was in his final season at Oklahoma, and they were the worst defense last year statistically for Brent Venables or in the Big 12 last year under Brent Venables. So, listen, Oklahoma was very aggressive in the portal, especially along the defensive front. But I need to see on the field that he is the right coach for Oklahoma and that they have a roster ready to compete, because I'm with you, Phil, listen, it was going to come at some point. By the way, we can go back to the day this announcement happened. I still think it's a big part of the reason why Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma in the first place. So there's a lot of variables, but as I said, I think the biggest losers yesterday coming out of this were Brent Venables and Steve Sarkisian, who I know would have loved another year to build up their rosters.
So we got Sunday, we got the Super Bowl going. Do you think Jalen Hurts is ready? What are your thoughts on this Philly-Kansas City matchup?
I guess my big thought is that, what I keep going back to is this, is I get the notion that Philly has the better across-the-board roster. I'm not going to argue that. But I also go back to the Super Bowl 2 years ago when Tampa played KC, and we were ready to crown KC a dynasty and this and that. And they really got kind of, again, to what we just talked about, they got kind of punked along the line of scrimmage. And so I think this year that Philly front is so good, but I also think KC has lived through that 2 years ago, and I think they'll be more prepared. I think they'll have a game plan to get the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands quick. And I think Mahomes is just a different quarterback. I mean, I think, there were he's never been bad or anything, but he had, a down month to 6 weeks 2 seasons ago. And I think this year he's done an incredible job adjusting to without Tyreek Hill. And so, maybe it's really square from the betting perspective. I understand why Philly's a favorite. I do like KC. Not a knock on Jalen Hurts. He's one of my all-time favorite college athletes to follow and cover and be around. But, I'm not betting against Mahomes in 2 straight Super Bowls. I think there were a lot of lessons learned from that loss to Tampa 2 years ago.
Where do you watch the game? How do you watch the game? And do you allow yourself to be around, more than 5 people for the Super Bowl? Because, we're the sort of people that want to watch the game, hear what the announcers are saying, and maybe listen to the commercials and things like that. But then when you're around all these other people, it's like, give me my own room. Give me my own room. So how does Aaron Torres watch the Super Bowl?
It's really funny. So my in-laws were not born in the United States, and so they don't really understand football. So one year we tried to do the big thing, have them over for the Super Bowl, and it was that Rams-Patriots Super Bowl that was literally the most boring game ever. It was like 10-6 was the final score or something like that. And I think they swore off football from that point on. So we, my wife and I usually will order a pizza. She kind of does watch for the commercials. I'll watch, for the game itself, and she'll probably be halfway on her phone. But I just bring it up to say that we'll have fun, but we're not a big group party kind of group. So.
Fair enough. Yeah, you got it. Like 5-6 people is like the maximum to watch the game. You get any more than that, it's hard to watch.
Well, and I know you guys have a lot of stuff to break down, and it's not my area where I'm going to break it down. But I mean, I not to say this in like a humble brag, like I host national radio. We will be talking about it the following week. But even on my podcast, I mean, every single person that's going to listen to you guys on Monday has watched the Super Bowl. The same with whoever is going to listen to my Monday podcast. So, like, the idea that I haven't paid attention, or I had too many to drink, or I had too many people in the room. Like, it is kind of our job to, at least kind of be monitoring what's going on. So, like I said, I'm with you, Matt. 5 to 6 tops is the most, and yeah.
Well, that's why
it's fun.
That's why I ask you about the SC. I mean, the who is the all-5 freshman team? Because I watch Arkansas basketball and I watch whoever they play. Brandon Miller didn't really show out against Arkansas, but who is your top 5 when you said you voted on the All-American SC or All-American basketball for the freshmen?
Freshman, I'm trying to remember. Well, Brandon Miller, obviously. Grady Dick from Kansas is having a great year. He's actually a very important piece for them. Anthony Black was up there. Cason Wallace is quietly, like, he's really Kentucky's only consistent player this year. Like, I think he's maybe, he's maybe their best guard, and maybe since the Malik Monk, De'Aaron Fox team of about 6-7 years ago now. So those are the guys that stand out. The SEC has quite a few. There's others nationally that I'm blanking on, but Anthony Black's right there. And to go back to your question, Matt, I thought it was such a great point by you, is like, I don't know why he's not getting more credit. Maybe it's because Arkansas was struggling, but again, it's almost like what I just said with Cason Wallace. It's not Cason Wallace's fault if Kentucky is flatlining, and Anthony Black has been so consistent and so much. And Muss has been talking about this since June, but, like, so much has been asked of him. And then on top of that, we thought Nick Smith would be able to take some of the playmaking away from him. That hasn't happened. So it's just been surreal. It's just been surreal to watch. And again, I just don't think he gets enough credit.
Hey, last thing I wanted to ask you about, and I thought about this from the end of the Tennessee-Vandy basketball game a couple of nights ago, and it wasn't Phillips not going for the dunk. It was the fact that the foul gave them 1-and-1 instead of what you see across almost every other level of basketball. The NBA, when you're in the bonus, you get 2 shots. In women's basketball, you get in the bonus, you get 2 shots. And then those levels too, timeouts, you advance the ball into the half court. Men's college basketball stands alone as far as I know, the only level of basketball that has a 1-and-1, up until the 7th foul, and you don't advance on a timeout. So my question for you, Aaron, is men's college basketball the only true basketball being played, or do they need to go the way the other leagues are doing things?
I'll tell you a funny story really quick, and I'll try to be quick. I know we're up on time. I actually was on a guest on Sirius NBA radio one time. I think it was around the NBA draft, and they brought me on to talk prospects. I got in like a shouting match with the host because he very passingly said, well, obviously the NBA rule where you advance the ball past half court that's obviously just like the right way to do it. And I was like, no, it isn't. And he's like, but it makes the game so much more fun. And I was like, and Phil, you'll appreciate this. I literally said it on air. I said, yeah, we could bring out metal bats and have a home run derby to end games in baseball, but we don't do that because it makes no sense. And I said, it doesn't make sense to just advance the ball. Like I just got into this like screaming match with the guy, and it was like fun, but it was like very like feisty because I don't understand how anyone is in favor of advancing the basketball. Now the 1-and-1, that's a different whatever, but like advancing the basketball, it's just so counterintuitive to everything that happens throughout the rest of the game that I just don't get why. Like, okay, it makes for a more fun game. It doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do, right? Like, we could go to, a punt, pass, and kick competition to decide games in overtime. It'd be entertaining. It doesn't mean that that's the way we should end football games. So it's one of AT's big sticking points. I hate the advancing the ball rule. I think it's the stupidest thing in the world. And I'll be honest, I've never really given much thought to the 1-and-1. It never really occurred to me that nobody else does it except for college. But I hate with a passion, the same way that Phil and Matt hate people ruining their Super Bowl viewing parties. I hate advancing the ball to half court in the NBA. I hate it. I think it's so stupid.
That's a good way to end our talk here, AT, with a little fire in the belly.
I do love to see Andy Reid in that punt, pass, and kick competition.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It'd be entertaining. It'd be entertaining. Yeah, that'd be a great way to end it. It's just dumb.
BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from the NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. BetOnline, where the game starts.